Hey, what's going on, everybody? Mike here, and thank you for joining me for another episode on the Powershell Show. So, I just want to go over briefly the different types of training materials for beginners and for people that have been using PowerShell. I've gone through plenty of material that is, maybe geared towards beginners, and I've said, wow, I kind of forgot about this, or I kind of never did it this way. Let me try it this way. So it's maybe not necessarily towards beginners, but it could also be towards people that are just brushing up because we're all human, right? And we sometimes even forget the basics. So I want to go through four different things, and this is just my take on it. You can also do plenty of Google searching and kind of see what will work best for you. So, number one, learn PowerShell in a month of lunches. This book helped me tremendously. I can't tell you guys enough how this book really changed the game for me. I think that I think all the in a month of lunches are really great. There's a Linux one for desktop purposes. There is a SQL one. There's an Active Directory one. There's a Git. There's so many. But for PowerShell, this is what I really really recommend. It's pretty much set up to be as it sounds, being able to complete it, at a lunch break or any other time that you have, 45 minutes to an hour to complete it. Um, Pretty much the way I did it, and I thought it was beneficial for me, instead of doing it in 30 days, I did it in about 60 days or maybe a little bit more. The reason why is because there are two parts. Well, there's not two parts. It's the same book. It's not split up. But for me, there was two parts. There was the reading the chapter, and there was the doing the labs. So what I'd like to do is I like to read the chapter. Then the next day or later on that day, if I had time, I would do the lab. Why? Because I wanted to make sure that I understood what I read, right? If I read the chapter and then did the lab right away, yeah, I would remember it, or I would have to maybe go back and look at one or two things. But for the most part, I'd remember it because I just read it, right? But that's not, you know, making me believe that I actually understood it, because the next day I could say, oh, what the heck was that, right? But if I read the chapter and then the next day or later on that day I did the lab, then I knew that I was, remembering things and retaining things. Um, there's a good possibility, and I'm gonna say for 95% of us that don't have photographic memory, that you're going to have to go through the chapter anyways when you're doing the labs. And it's a good refresher. There's nothing wrong with that. And for the record, there's also nothing wrong with reopening this book 2 months later to look over something again. But if I can really push something, and I'm not a promoter for PowerShell in a month of lunches or anything like that, but if I can push something on you guys, I'm gonna say get this book. This is the third edition. There is a second edition, but it's obviously older. This is the best one to get. This is the newest release at this time. Yeah, like I said, this book is great. I can't stress it enough. And maybe I'm just repeating myself at this point, but I can't stress it enough how good this book is and how much it's truly, truly going to help you guys with PowerShell and learning PowerShell and learning the ins and the outs of being a PowerShell user. Um, you're going to see another book up here, Learn PowerShell Scripting in a Month of Lunches. I wouldn't recommend this right off the bat. This is more of an advanced book. They kind of expect you to know everything in here already and then some. In here, they kind of go into more of the programming aspect of PowerShell. I'm currently reading this book, just kind of going over some refreshers and stuff, and reading. I read the tool making book, which is Learn PowerShell Tool Making in a Month of Lunches. It's the one previous to this. There's a lot of the same things in it, but this one is just kind of a V2. So yeah, definitely pick this up. Amazon, 21 bucks if you're in the US. Um, these two guys you want to look out for too. Don Jones and Jeffrey Hicks, they do a good, good, good job of really explaining things, whether it's in their video series or it's their books or it's their blogs, anything. They're tremendous. They're very, very good. So yeah, definitely pick this up. Now, if you're more of a video guy and you like the visual, there's also a Learn Windows PowerShell in a Month of Lunches YouTube series. Now, just keep in mind, this YouTube series is from 2014. It's 4 years ago, right? So a good portion of the things are going to be the same. It's not, there's, how can I explain it? There's a good portion of the basics and the fundamentals that are going to be the same. However, things change over time with different PowerShell versions and updates and new aliases and new things to the commandlets added and all of that stuff. But this is going to help you with the fundamentals, and you can also even do both. You can read the book and you can do the YouTube series, at the same time. One thing I'd recommend, watch it, on your computer, on your iPad or something like that. I started to try to watch it on my phone on lunch breaks at work and stuff like that a while back, and it's even with my, at the time I had an iPhone 6s Plus, it's still kind of hard to read the code unless it's like right in front of your face. So try it on your iPad or on your Android tablet or on your Microsoft Surface or on your laptop or your desktop or whatever. But that's just my recommendation. Another great series for video is the MVA series from Jason Helmick and Jeffrey Snover. If you guys don't know, Jeffrey Snover is the creator of PowerShell. I really like this series. I think a lot of the MVA series are pretty good, but this one it's going to go pretty in depth in terms of getting started with how to use PowerShell and be a PowerShell user. And as you're going to see throughout the series, I'm going to stress this enough. I can't stress this enough, and I'm going to keep stressing it. There's a difference between a PowerShell user and a PowerShell toolmaker or a PowerShell scripter, right? PowerShell user is you're using the commandlets at hand. You're using the modules that have been created. You're using the the help system in there, and you're using all of the specified commandlets for a Hyper-V module or a print server module or to install Windows features on a server or to get services that are running or processes that are running. And scripting, a toolmaker, a scripter is you're doing one of two things. You're taking those commandlets that have already been created and you're putting them into a script with variables and functions and your own sets of parameters and your own help files, and you're kind of manipulating the information or you're creating new things out of it, or you're creating your own modules and you're doing your own thing that way. But I'm kind of steering into another lane here. But yeah, point being, this is a great series as well. Now, a site that you would like to bookmark definitely is PowerShell.org. This is the place to go for PowerShell. There's also a subreddit for PowerShell that's great. I think a lot of people post a lot of good things. My recommendation, and again, this is just kind of like the way I learned, I guess. When you're looking at forums and stuff and you're looking at different people's scripts and maybe you're gonna stumble your way upon GitHub and you're gonna see scripts and you're gonna feel nervous or scared or like, oh, I can't learn this, whatever. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't feel like you can't do it. Don't feel like, because you're seeing all these crazy things, you're never going to understand. Trust me. Hang out with me, go through this series, read this book, go through the videos, go through the training, do a lot on your own, and you'll be just fine. Trust me. If you're feeling that way, I was in the same boat. I felt like man, how am I going to get this? How am I going to remember all this stuff? How am I going to remember all these commands and how to do things and all that stuff? And trust me, it comes with experience, it comes with time. You're going to be just fine. So for me, these are the four different um, sources that you would like to really utilize. It's very important, in my opinion. Another thing that you want to do is test, play, lab, everything on your own. Everything you can possibly do. Um, don't test things in production, please. Especially at work, we don't want to be testing the AD module and remove every single user from Active Directory. So definitely don't test in production, but test on your own. Test in your lab environments at work. Learn how to do things with PowerShell, and eventually, what's going to happen is you're going to be testing things, and let's just say you're creating new users in PowerShell, or you're gathering information, or you're dabbling in WMI objects, or whatever the case may be. You're going to start to feel more and more comfortable as you use PowerShell. It's something that you can't just read about it and watch some videos and be like, okay, I can do this now. You have to study, you have to lab, you have to do hands-on. Me personally, I'm a very hands-on person. I don't remember every single word that I read, so it's better for me to read something and do it and really get a grasp of it. And it's probably the same for a good portion of us in IT. So again, guys, PowerShell.org, getting started with Windows or with Microsoft PowerShell MVA Series. Learn Windows PowerShell in a month of lunches on YouTube. Just please keep in mind this is from 2014. And above all, again, my personal opinion, above all, learn Windows PowerShell in a month of lunches. I can pretty much guarantee you that you won't regret it. Thank you guys for watching. Take care.